Welcome everyone to the Squadcast. My name is Jason Ferrant, joined by CardGamer, Luserbeam, and Shadawx today. From the Mastering Runeterra squad team. We really need to think of a better name. But let's jump into things. So we were just talking before I hit the record button about how there were two tournaments last weekend. One run by us at Mastering Runeterra, which I'm familiar with because I cast it. The other one, though, LLS, I was not familiar with who won or what did well at all.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm gonna try and find that out.
Okay, here. I'll start since I was in the finals. So
Okay.
I brought triple aggro, and I lost to triple control, which was, I think, FTR, Darkness, and Viego. So that's what won. And that was my tree, I believe. My tree? Yeah, my tree. But yeah. In that lineup, I think there was 2 or 3 of them the exact same in top 8.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, very different from Mastering Runeterra then, because there was no aggro. And maybe there was, I think there was one, there was definitely a Field of Rush deck. I don't know if it was like a control lineup, but it was mostly more like Aphelios piles. I actually have it right here. Let me see. So the winning lineup was like the 3 good decks, or 3 good decks. It was Fizzlulu, Riven Vic, and Yumi Panth Tarek. And then that lost in the finals to 4LW on Akshan Lee, Vic Vi, and Ziggs Talia. So it was a lot more like Mono Shurima, a lot of Ziggs Talia. Yeah, that one control. Oh, no, there was 2. Sorry, I was wrong. There were 2 lists that have Darkness and Field of Rush. One with Kindred Viego, one with Zoe Fel Vi, which I really liked. I thought was really good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like the PNZ Philios deck a lot. So yeah, okay. So the only reason I brought aggro to OLS was because I was playing both tournaments at the same time, and I just needed one lineup to be easier to play with on my phone.
So were they both triple aggro? Or just
no. I play like a Silver Akshan, a Philios PNZ, and Silver Actions, Aphelios PNZ, and something else for Mastering Runeterra, and I came like 10th, so I just barely missed top cut.
Yeah, you missed Breakers.
I topped the other one. Yeah. But yeah, it's better if one of them's easier, so you don't have to look at it too much.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I get it, dude. Like sometimes when you enter the tournament, you just got to be like, hey, look, I just want to like do my mulligan and that's it. Like I get that.
Yeah. Oh, Yia was the third deck I brought. So Silver Akshan, Zoe Aphelios, Vi, Victor Aphelios, and Yia.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts after playing 2 like pretty different lineups?
I really liked the Mastering Runeterra one, the Demacia or Silver Akshan Vi Aphelios one. I think that one's like really just all around solid, and you just ban Sundisk or whatever landmark annoying deck there is. But the problem is like sometimes Sundisk is paired with Tree, so I think Sundisk is the better one to ban out of the 2 if they brought both. For aggro, it was such an uphill battle against so many control lineups, like the Darkness, Field of Rush, Viego, and sometimes it was Targon's Peak. Like those 4 were like interchanged. I faced like 3 or 4 times between both tournaments. Yeah.
But you did well.
Yeah, I'm just built different, so.
Oh, of course, correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Silver Auction is really interesting because like you can't it's not great on ladder currently, right? It's really bad into Mono Shurima, but I could see it being like a tournament staple still if you could just ban, like you say, ban the landmark deck. Was it good for you?
Yeah, Silver Akshan was actually the one that ate the most bans on my side. I only got to play it once over the, how many rounds were there? 8 rounds? I got to play it once.
Yeah.
And the rest of the times it was banned. And yeah, like you said, you just ban away like Sundisk, or if they don't have Sundisk, whatever bad matchup that's there. Because Silver Akshan's like just all around good, right? Like I wouldn't say there's anything that's terrible for it.
Yeah.
Mushroom's pretty bad.
It's like
I would definitely agree. Like when I look at your lineup, I feel like it's just good decks that give you a lot of agency to win almost any matchup. Like you have a solid line to victory in every matchup, especially if you get one ban too. protect yourself.
Yeah. So is that the lineup you would take? Like if you had to play a tournament on Saturday, would you take that lineup? Or any changes?
I'd probably play the same thing.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah.
I'd probably take it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Like the only like I guess worry thing is like some people still are on like target like Euronorm lineups, but the other whatever your unbanned deck is should be fine into whatever they bring for that, and then that just means you have to somehow win one game out of the two with Euronorms, which is usually pretty easy sometimes.
Oh yeah. That is very manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, you play the funny cards, and if your opponent has a bad hand, you win, and that happens way more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you guys? CardGamer, Luserbeam, have you guys been playing much lately? Ladder tournaments, anything?
Well, ladder. I used to be rank 1, and then I decided to experiment with all the new cards, and now I'm sitting at a comfy like 200 LP.
You know what? That
And
makes me feel good, so good because I am too.
Yeah, I gotta say, been having a lot of fun. All you have to do is just pretend Sundisk doesn't exist, and then it gives you a lot of room for creativity and trying stuff out. I really want to play more tournaments in the coming weeks because it is one of those metas where it's just like potentially there's a really cool and diverse scene there, but you know, it's a lot of stuff is being held back by mono Shurima. So yeah, that's basically what I've been on. CardGamer and I are on the same team for the Runeterra Academy seasonal tournament or tournament season thing. So yeah, we're gonna be on that every week. Not gonna spoil our plans this time. Don't do it, CardGamer.
What group are you guys in?
We're in Ikado's group, group 1.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I don't know anyone in my group. I'm always like, what group you in? It's like never my group.
Yeah, you find out when you play them, right? You just pick
That's right.
3
Let me pull
decks,
it up
show
real
up,
quick,
and
actually, I'm curious.
Like I'm sure
Yeah.
I think there is like one Wombat team at least, but other than that,
yeah. There's a
is Monty's team in your group?
I think
Yes,
maybe.
Monty's team is in your group.
Okay, that's right.
I think you have Chip and Stromboli as well.
Yeah. They got Chip. So, I mean, this group's pretty.
Group 2 is pretty okay.
Yeah.
I can't tell if you guys are being sarcastic or not. I have no idea.
Hang on.
Is our group good? Is our group hard or not hard?
So I think a lot of people would rate Group 2 as probably the second hardest group. I think the consensus is Group 1 is the hardest group.
Yeah, because we're in it.
Yeah, always in the group of death.
Yeah, every time. Dude, it's inescapable. Honestly, every season that we get in this, we're just going to be in the hell group, I think.
I actually say
it's
Group 3 is probably the second hardest.
Group 3? Let me see. I don't remember the stuff off the top of my head. Oh, yeah, Group 3 is like... Group 3 consists of like a lot of the groups where I like didn't know how I felt about them.
Yeah.
They all look like they could do something really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if I said to pick the 4 that would come out, you could probably do it. But when you look at the rest, they're all like pretty close to also being there, you know?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so does that mean that Group 4 is the easiest by default?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Is that the group you're in?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Group 4 is the one where like we already know the top 2 groups.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay.
Just Hydra and
All
you
right, cool.
chilling.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really like these Runeterra Academy tournaments. It gives me something weird to prep for. Because normally it just like, I don't know, this is a card game. You don't do teams normally.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
One thing
Yeah,
I
it's
will
nice
say, that I really like about the Runeterra Academy format is it really pushes you, because like you are on a team, it pushes every player to really be flexible and expand what they can do and play as a player, since you're sharing the pool of deck with the deck pool with more than just like Riot Lock. But for those of you who don't know, the Runeterra Academy restriction is um, you have 3 players, and each player needs to follow Riot Lock. But in addition to that, you can only repeat the same champions or region combination twice. So, for example, me and Loser and our last teammate, we can only bring 2 copies of Yordle Arms, but we can't bring 2 copies of Yordle Arms and Glorious Evolution Shellfolk, right? Because that's the region combination again, even though it's different champions. Um, so because of this, it really forces you to figure out unique lineups and really expand yourself as a player. Like one thing you'll probably hear me talk about a lot, and I've mentioned before, is like I'm pretty high on Targon's Peak. I think it's a great deck. Like me and Loser thought that deck was like the worst garbage high roll, like funny haha deck. But man, that deck is so good in the right
Oh, let me
field.
tell
It's
you.
insane.
Yeah, yeah. If there's one thing that I gotta appreciate about the Runeterra Academy format is it has me playing shit like Targon's Peak. I would have never touched that deck in my life if it weren't for the Runeterra Academy.
You realize you still don't have to, right? There's a lot of other options out there.
No, but now I recognize. My eyes are open. I recognize that Targon's Peak is one of the most base decks of all time, and you'd be a fool not to bring it.
Is this like some sort of? Do you guys all get together in your team? Like, this is what we're gonna do. You guys go on the podcast. I'm gonna go over here on Twitter. We're gonna be like, Targon's Peak is the shit. Everyone, Targon's Peak. Is this like some sort of master plan?
We almost...
just yeah. She who wanders. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
I think we went like 12-1 was our like game score the week we brought Targon's Peak. It was like the week we almost 12-0'd.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
If you're playing against control decks, it just wins. And it beat Pantheon and Lee Sin at the time. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's still pretty good in tournaments now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
is.
good.
I mean, I'm thinking about the general feel. Like,
Yeah,
it's
because
just another
anti-control deck.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it seems good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff is just slow right now.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, nice victor there, buddy. Here's my 10/10 that obliterates your hand.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you
Have
beat
fun.
Mono Shurima?
Yeah, you ban
So I have
Isn't
never
it just
lost...
bad Mono Shurima?
I wouldn't say it's bad Mono Shurima. It's pretty different.
Yeah, it's quite
but
a bit different.
The Mono Shurima matchup is supposed to be a bit unfavored, but I don't know. I've never lost the matchup, so just
Yeah, it's not
don't
like it's
lose
a terrible one, right? Like
No.
you can even like you could technically like play Divergence Paths or something if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't think that's worth it. I think you just want to try and like arms race them, but I do think it's not that bad, because if you ramp and you don't play things to proc their Roiling Sands, they don't level that fast. And then you can just start trying to deny check them with like It That Stairs and She Who Wanders and FTRs.
Yeah.
Back when I was climbing consistently, funny enough, with Akshan Lee, that was like the same strategy I had against Sundisk. Was like you'd play like maybe 2 units ever, and then they just never level their Xerath. So then you just get to wail on them like repeatedly. Like sometimes that's just the strategy. If you can win by not playing units, then awesome.
Okay, I got a question for you guys. How good do you think Mono Shurima is?
I think it's a very good deck. I think it should probably be tuned down a little bit. I don't know if it needs to from like an objectively balanced standpoint, but it is a bit frustrating of a deck. So I would understand why they would do it. And the power level isn't the most evenly distributed. Xerath holds a significant portion of the power that is maybe a little bit unreasonable, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be nerfed. But it's a very good deck. It has like very polarized matchups as like this type of anti-control, almost alternate win condition type of deck. But I do think it's very good. It's seeming a lot better now because not only are people figuring out how to play it, but people are playing a lot better versions of the deck, which helps a lot.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
compared to the beginning, like when it first like what was it, the patch, when the patch first came out,
Mhm.
people were like playing it a lot, right? And it was dominating, and then people adapted and started playing like all this Noxus decks and whatever, and from there it faded out a bit, and now it's back again and is doing better, like you said, because people learned to play it more, and because the people who were targeting it from that short period of time have also moved on, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Like that, I pretty much agree. Like I think the deck is maybe a little too strong, but nothing like super obscene. It's just more of a frustrating deck to play against because it's like on ladder, it really doesn't feel like you have any agency when you run into it. You either like look at it and you go, "Oh, I win," or "Oh, I lose," and
Mm-hmm.
like you just kind of move on. Yeah, I mean, like maybe it's a little bit too strong, and pretty much all of the power is entirely on Xerath. Like, if they land Xerath and they stick him around, it becomes a whole lot more difficult to come back from that. So, like, I don't know. I don't know if we're in like the realm of really talking nerfs about it yet. But like, if they were to touch it eventually, it would. I could see like Xerath needing an extra landmark to level up or something. Just like I think that power wise, maybe it's a bit high, but like it's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what about the Xerath? Like his third level's kind of insane, right? Like once you
Yeah, why
go
does it have 9
ascends,
health?
it's like you
hell?
just get locked.
Yeah.
You also just get locked out. Like five.
Nine
Well,
health,
actually-
obliterate, like
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a
Yeah.
combo. It's like a combo. So he's 9 health. Your units no longer die; they get obliterated instead. They all get obliterated because like your opponent's just passing turns or destroying landmarks. And on top of it all, when they flip the sun disk, they draw another Xerath.
Yeah.
So it's just like, cool. I guess I lose here. Like that's the part where it really feels like the game is over.
I think Sundisk
like
itself can be changed a bit. Like for example, that part, like drawing each of your ascended champs, that's kind of like what the
Yeah. This is fucking crazy because like the amount of games where I've experimented with new decks and I felt pretty even into Sundisk, it like turned into more of like a resource war. Just at the end, the opponent just waits and they draw 2 or 3 cards. And you're just like, cool. And those 2 or 3 cards are just game winning. So like, what do you do?
yeah.
It's I think the deck's a little too good. I think it's because like you could beat it, but like it's warped the format around it, right? Like you can't really realistically try to climb the top of Masters with something that's bad and do it. Like it's tough. Like it'd have to be at a moment when it really died like way down because you're just like so those matchups you just snap lose. And I think you guys really nailed it. I think those two things, like the third level up on Xerath or the landmark itself, like change it because there's a lot of shit going on there, right? There's a bunch of stuff happening with both. It's like, so is that to do all like 3 different things, like each of them, like the Sundisk and him, like just like like pick one of them, like make him a little smaller, make him not hit for 5, make him not hit your face if you don't have any units. Make it Sundisk like not draw you 2 more champs. Like just like start touching some of that. And just like
it's just like that little package that takes like no commitment at this point because now we have decent interaction with stuff like quicksand. Like it just does everything. So like you really can just like when you queue the deck up, you can really just go with the game plan of okay, if I make it to turn 7 where I drop Xerath, or if I make it to turn 7 where I drop Xerath and I drop like Azir in the same turn, like that's a guaranteed win. And then if I can drop one of the champs before then that's awesome. And like if you just come in with that little game plan, it'll just carry you through so much. I know, because like I started queuing the deck like a week ago, like for real, and that thing, like if I like gun to my head, I was told like you have to make fucking 700 LP tomorrow, like instantly I'd pick that deck.
Really? Those are big
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, without a question. It's just it is so wild against the decks that it is good against. Like the decks that it's good against, you don't feel like you can lose.
Mhm.
And then the decks that it's bad against, like a lot of the decks that it's bad against, like Burn, for example, just get bullied by other decks in the format right now. So it just seems like a really safe bet if you want to climb.
Yeah, fair enough. That was gonna be my next question. It was like, what do you guys like on the ladder right now? Because like it is kind of like, I don't know if balance is the right word, but it's definitely open. There's a lot of stuff on the ladder. And yeah, everything kind of like loses to something. And sometimes that's really frustrating. Everyone wants balance. Like I don't want straight balance. Like I'll never forget this Magic the Gathering format where literally like, oh, we played it for a month nonstop. And it was the one to qualify for anyone who plays Magic. It was the one to qualify for the first Mythic Championship. It was like $1 million prize pool or whatever. And so like the top 8 on the ladder got to go. And so everyone was playing. And so like the whole world plays. After a month at the end, everyone's like, yeah, I couldn't really get edge. Yeah, me neither. It was fucking terrible. We just flipped coins for a month. It was horrible. Just like do up and down, up and down. So like perfectly balanced is like you don't want that either.
Oh no, you really don't. Like, I mean, going to Magic the Gathering, like the pretty much my favorite format in that game, and the only format I play at this point is Legacy. And Legacy is one of the least balanced formats ever, but you get to have a lot of fun because it's not so much about the balance, but it's more about the areas where you get the chance to express your skill as a card gamer, stuff like that.
Yeah, Legacy's dope.
So yeah, like I don't really like. I used to like when I was young and new to card games. I used to really harp on making sure things are balanced, win rates stay all relatively even. You have X decks that are competitive, but like the more that I play these games, the more that I just throw that thought out the window, and it's more just like, okay, well, are we able to have fun while playing this game? That's pretty much the only priority that I go by now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's a big misconception with game balance equating fun. Like the most balanced games are the most fun. I think they are definitely more skill testing and skill expression, right? If your game is the most balanced, then you can definitely make an argument, maybe not in a card game, but you can make an argument that the best player should win. But you also create scenarios where it becomes very polarized. X beats Y, Y beats Z, and that isn't the fun environment you want. You really want one thing to have a leg up in one area and another thing to have a leg up in another area and things to rotate. And while I don't always love Runeterra, one thing I really appreciate is pretty much every other season or big patch, either through nerfs and buffs or new cards, is we really switch up from having this more uh, feels like spells matter kind of backliney type of meta to a more like mid-rangey onboard type of meta. So I think that is like really nice about the balance in Runeterra, and just like an aspect of game balance that we should strive for in general is just making everything have their time to be the best at certain different times. And if you do that and you keep people familiar with different strategies, they'll be more likely to cycle through them to fit the specific meta at the time.
Totally. Yeah, I'm very much like that too. Like even decks that I like I really liked Lisa and Zoe, but I was like, fucking enough. Like just enough. Like let other things have their time. Like 6 eyes. Like no, I let aggro have its time in the sun, and then it did, and I was like, okay, put it back.
Me too. Like Lee Sin, one of my favorite decks ever in this game. But yeah, like that. You know, I really enjoy that this season and like this season coming up, I don't just immediately have one of my tournament decks decided in my lineup. Like I really like that. I like that it gives me a little bit more room to be creative. And yeah, stuff like we just I like it when different types of decks get shifted around and what's the best and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, we're in a really like combat heavy meta right now, and that's super cool. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, new and fresh. Like that's like, to me, that's the big advantage that LoR has had over like Magic and even Hearthstone, because Hearthstone's expensive, I'm pretty sure, right, to buy packs and stuff, is the fact that you can just like change it all up all the time, and you're not just like screwing people that pay money to like, you know, build certain decks or whatever. Or is it
Yeah, nobody's mad because you play a month and you have every card in the game. Like,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
So like, I don't know
like,
why.
cool, yeah.
They're doing better now, but like, and they did, and then it kind of stopped, and now they're back again. But like, lean into that. Like Magic the Gathering came up with Alchemy. They're following you because you have that big advantage over them. They were tied to paper Magic. They can't just be banning shit or even errating or, you know, nerf and buffing things. And so they came out with their own version. And when they did, I was like, oh, that's like the big advantage that LoR has. It still does because their economy is terrible, and like other reasons. But yeah, lean into that hard. Anytime we're playing the same deck for like multiple seasons, like, you know, like 3 seasons in a row, that's like, even now, like, you know, Pirates. Do you guys see Pirates was like kicking off on the ladder? And I was like, for like maybe 5 or 10 games, I was like, yeah, burn people's faces. It's been a while. And after that, I was like, oh god, yeah, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, fucking face, decimate you. I'm like, I've done this before. I have done this so many times that I was like, yeah, it's just that even like, you know, Scouts comes back into vogue, and it's like, yeah, it's fun for a second, and then like, no, I've done this. But like when we're talking about like Aphelios Fae, or how about like Vi Victor or Lee Victor, or like all these, like there's a bunch of new decks that have come out this season, right? And like that's fun, like that's super exciting. And yeah, I think we need a lot more of that.
And especially compared to the past couple of seasons, like all these new decks that pop up, the majority of them feel so bizarre and unlike a deck that would be successful in the past metas. And I think that's what makes it really cool. Because like if you, like 2 seasons ago, like if you really got lucky, you could really try to go for the kill with a big elusive one shot. But if you seriously decide to bring that to a tournament or something, it would often just be considered a meme, and for good reason, because the different types of power cards that existed in those previous formats, they would just shit all over something like that. But now we're in a new meta after the patch where stuff like that is cool and stuff like that is really viable. And I like that. I like how fresh it is. I like that the Lee Sin deck doesn't use Lee Sin to OTK. It uses him more as like this weird value removal tool. I like that, even though I think it's sacrilege. I think it's really cool that there's a different way to use Lee Sin right now. And totally. I really appreciate that about the patch.
Yeah. I think we're actually like headed into a really good time in Runeterra, because like this has been pretty good, and in a couple weeks we're gonna have a brand new patch that definitely no one on this call has already seen. And it's gonna shake things up again. And then like I'm excited for that because that's gonna be into seasonals. But then I'm really excited for the next one that has what's his name? Jin?
Yeah, Jin.
That is Jin, and like the whole new way of like deck construction and stuff. That's got me really excited, because like it seems like they're pushing these new boundaries, because it, you know, like again, like use a Magic reference, it feels like we've like getting all the colors. It's like, okay, all the white cards, all the black cards, all the blue cards, and like, yeah, shocker, shit's kind of like not really like working out. All the Shurima cards, oh, too good. All the Targon cards, oh, too good. All the Battle City cards, oh, ended up being too good. Yeah, like shocker. But like now they're gonna like try doing things in like different sort of ways, it seems. Like I didn't know what they do, like none of us did, right? I thought maybe they just sprinkle a bunch of new cards all over everything, but you can see that they're like going in new directions. Like Jin's like, what is it? It's like you can play units that have like come into play abilities or whatever, or activated abilities or something from any region. How fucking cool is that? Like anytime you can like combine cards from a bunch of regions, like just, it just gets so cool. The deck building gets so unique. You get this like That's like the reason Path of Champions type stuff is so fun, because you're like, oh, because I had this card and then I had this card and they weren't supposed to do shit, and now here they are doing this crazy thing I never seen before. And so like that's just one champion from that set, and that's just one set that's like going to come out. And so yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future. Fingers crossed, but it seems like cool shit's coming.
Yeah, I started getting a lot more excited for expansions once we finally dealt with the release of Vandal City, because like at that point it's like, yeah, you've done it. You've established all the colors, which means any new expansion from that point forward is going to be more focused on innovating and putting cool new twists on the stuff that we already have established.
Yep.
And that means that like expansions from this point further will probably feel like kind of the same, to the point where you have a little bit of familiarity, but there's going to be like some weird, wacky twists that'll have a lot for you to explore. Like Jin, I'm very excited for something like Jin, because I know that like the idea of him, like inherently you have the cost of running this champion instead of other champions, which I assume there will be some better options out there than just adding extra regions to your deck. But the benefit is you get the opportunity to just like do broken stuff that you would have seen in Path of Champions. And like I just think it's a cool champ in general, because like that's like a really neat little crossover opportunity for somebody who plays like a lot of Path of Champions, who wants to like ladder or even just try to be competitive in general. Like that deck could be a really good stepping stone to a scene like that.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty exciting stuff. So like you said, now that Vandal's out, it's basically like that's the core set, and it's all done now, right? So that it's established, it's done. We have our colors, it's all good. Everything from the future, like you said, expanding upon new mechanics, or I guess strengthening the regions or sprinkling a bit on each, like you said. Like they can go any of those routes, but it opens up so much more. Yeah,
totally. What do you guys think of like I haven't talked about this or heard anyone talk about this in a while, but like rotation and like starting to have different formats. Luserbeam plays Legacy,
it's coming,
which is basically like all the cards. It must come eventually,
so,
right?
It has to.
Yeah.
It has no choice.
This is another thing that like I've come around on. Like I'm generally pretty anti-rotation. Like I want there to be as many cards in the pool as possible for card games.
You're one of those
nowadays.
anti-rotators, huh?
Yeah.
I'm pro rotate.
I recognize that if they are if Riot continues to print cards the way that they do, where everything has to be really powerful and everything has to make a huge splash, like a lot of your new cards that you print every patch, they have to be at the forefront of competitive, then it probably does mean that we're gonna end up in a rotating format at some time, or we're just gonna end up like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you play for one turn and you play solitaire and you either win or you lose, which like I don't think anybody wants that. Not to shit on Yu-Gi-Oh too much. I love the game.
Yeah, so okay, so I don't understand Yu-Gi-Oh, and I've heard this lots of times. How the fuck is it so popular then? Is it like Legacy? Is that why?
So the reason. Okay, so one of the big reasons it's popular, in my opinion, is just because of the nostalgia factor you get from all of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime that was playing on TVs like throughout time as a kid. Like that's what really got me. That's what got me into the game, and that's what got the majority of other people I know who play into the game. It's like, oh, I watched the anime. I want to play fucking Blue Eyes White Dragon or whatever, and then they get into the game, they realize that like those cards have been power crept out of existence, and they just kind of learn the game as it is, because it's this brand, this IP that they're used to and they're super into. That's what I know. That's what I've gotten based on like pretty much all the other Yu-Gi-Oh players I know. Like a lot of them will be happy to admit that other games are probably like better designed or more fun or more balanced. But like that's like the cool fun zone for you. You get to like there is a kind of appeal to just playing solitaire and first turn killing your opponent.
Dude,
like there is an appeal to that.
Legacy's fun, right? Like I'm not saying Legacy's exactly like that, but like it's much more like than other formats.
Yeah, I would say Legacy, a typical game, you'll know who's gonna win like 3 or 4 turns in.
Yeah,
that's a typical game. Depending on the deck you're playing, you may know like 1 or 2 turns in. But you know, like the thing is, like everybody's playing with such powerful cards. It's more like that fucking Incredibles quote. Like when everyone's super, no one is. Like you get to go with these like you basically just fire nukes at each other. Like that's what Legacy is. And I would say that Legacy did a lot more. Legacy has the advantage of being built off of the base of what I would call a more balanced game than Yu-Gi-Oh. Because like Yu-Gi-Oh, off the bat, they just like started printing broken cards day one because they didn't really see it as like a legit game.
Print cards?
Yeah, they still do. Yeah.
Oh, so shit's just getting more and more broken just every day.
Yeah, and that's a challenge that Konami always faces. It's just like, well, we're already in a format where you can win in 1 turn. Like, how do we make cards that are exciting from this point? And they always find a way to print something more broken and more broken.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we're going to like circling back to LOR and like rotating formats, like if we're gonna continue to print cards where it's just like our new cards are gonna be awesome and super powerful compared to our older ones, eventually we are gonna end up in a place where we need a rotating format.
So
what does rotating the old cards out even do though? Sorry,
CardGamer. I don't actually have the best answer to this, but what I was gonna kind of go into saying was, I think if we do a rotation, either it will be Riot going back on their word, or it won't be the most traditional sense, right? Because they have always said they wanted to make this game like champion focused, so they don't want the champions to rotate. They always want the champions to be playable. So, one, I think they could maybe rotate a lot of the like basic like the follower support type cards, because I don't think those are as instrumental, and you can more reasonably print like more powerful or like other generic support type cards for these champions. But I think this also ties into like, do we think that with updates coming, like they announced today for Garen, LeBlanc, and who was the last one?
Udyr.
If you guys remember. Udyr.
Yeah.
I forgot because
right out the gate, Udyr.
Right out the gate, exactly. But like, do we think that doing these updates will be enough to bring these champions back to life and allow them to like be ever present for, you know, like the Udyr main coming from League of Legends who just wanted to play Udyr?
I've heard.
So like updates like that, updates like that are the kind of updates I actually prefer for a digital card game. It's like Magic, like not the game. It is magical how you have this extra option as a game designer. Like older, like physical only card games always had to deal with the issue of like, oh well, I mean, if we make something too broken, like we're just gonna have to like ban it, say like this card doesn't exist anymore. But you know, with a digital card game, we have the opportunity to tune cards after they're released all the time. We can functionally errata them without any kind of like messy issues that come with errating cards in the physical space. So you can just be like, we want this card to be good now. It is good now. That's the kind of stuff that I like as far as changes go. Like buffs, nerfs, or maybe if like a card is just too fundamentally broken and it creates something that we've seen for long enough that we don't really want to see anymore, then we can choose to cycle it out or ban it or whatever. Like maybe that's how a rotation would work, where you just rotate certain types of cards or a certain list of cards out of the format for a little bit. and then maybe they come back later. Like it could be something like that, where you just selectively rotate like it would be like a really advanced ban list, I guess.
Didn't Hearthstone do that?
Talk about this.
I was about to ask, are any of you familiar with Hearthstone's rotation like the way they do it?
I have been made familiar with it. I quit Hearthstone like 4 or 5 years ago.
Tell us how they do it.
Yeah, so they have their base set, right? Their core set, which is mostly made up of like the regular stuff that was there when the game first came out or whatever, right? And then their expansions came out, and then you've got like Nax and you've got like Blackrock Mountain. So those are all the expansions. Like I guess in LoR terms, that would be like the Ascent of Targon and the Empires of Shurima or whatever. So eventually they reached the point where they wanted to do rotation, and it was, I think at first it was basically like Magic, the newest 3 sets or something were legal, and the rest they had another format called Wild, which had everything still, which I think is what Legacy for Magic, right? Is that where everything?
So for Magic, it would be like Vintage. Legacy is more like
Vintage.
Legacy would be like Wild, but we ban the cards that obviously take the fun out of the game.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they do is they have the 3 newest sets plus the core set, which is all the staples of the game, right? Like if it was Runeterra, you would keep. Yeah, Mystic Shot, like all those things. So, but eventually a time came that so many cards in the core set ended up being broken or too good, and they became, staples that are always seen in every deck. And on top of that, there were cards that were rotated out that, people thought were cool and actually fit a lot. And if they were brought back, it shouldn't be a problem. So eventually what they did is they also rotated the core set as well between. So they had a core set, and they took cards that were from the old expansions, put them in the core set, and then the core set also applied to plus the new 3 sets. So for example, for example, Mystic Shot, if it ended up being a staple in every PNZ deck, they'd be like, okay, Mystic Shot is no longer part of the core set, it's out, but we'll put in Shock Blast if it was rotated out, and Shock Blast is now part of the core set.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, things like that. And also, to the reason you asked why rotation is needed, I guess, it's because, like Loser was saying, the power creep kind of cards that come out every expansion, so and so, the old cards can't keep up, right? And you can't just keep changing them over time. Like, you're not going to just say, oh, Mystic Shot only does 2 now, this is garbage, let's make it do 3, right? You can't do that every single time a better card comes out. So eventually rotation needs to come in to keep old cards relevant or played or seen without deleting that card from the game.
Yeah. What if they just had more formats, though? I guess that doesn't really change it, though. Right? The good cards are just the good cards also.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking,
well, that's the thing. It's like if you separate into a bunch of different formats, like Mystic Shot will always be Mystic Shot. Like you're always, that's always going to be a card that you consider. Same thing with like I'm sure a burn deck in different formats looks relatively the same, depending on like what you keep in these different formats and what you restrict. But yeah, like I do think that the way that Hearthstone did it was quite elegant. Like my problems with the game do not have to do with like the way that they actually balance the game. Like I do think that if we did something like that, it would be really cool for LoR. Like what if at some point in time there was just a format where Riot said, okay, in this format, you're like the rally cards don't exist, like Golden Aegis or whatever, but instead we've given you like a different way to play Demacia that's like actually compelling and fun, whatever that may be. I don't know. I haven't thought about this at all. But yeah, like I do think that there's a lot of room for something cool and creative if that is the way that you want to rotate cards. Yeah, like I think that like just rotating by the whole set is kind of inelegant in a world where you can basically do whatever you want balance wise. You have access to so much more with it being a digital and not a physical card game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really hope they start leaning into those advantages more, because like that's what we're here for, right? Like stuff like puff caps. Anytime there's anything that like you just can't do in a physical game, I'm like, yes, that's the advantage. Like take hold of that. And yeah, I hope they do it for everything. Like, which I think they will, right? It seems like almost
they're,
even
I think
times
they're leaning into it a bit. Yeah.
yeah, even times when we don't want them to, like the freaking clock or like I don't know the expeditions. It's like, look,
Do you have
draft
the
chess
clock,
clock's been
Jason?
around for a while.
Is there a problem?
Oh fuck.
But yeah. I mean, like, yeah, exactly. Like the puff caps thing. Still one of my favorite mechanics, like ever in a card game. It's like the only mechanic that I've seen where in a card game where like you can actually punish your opponent for drawing cards. Like pretty much any other card game I've seen that's tried to do something like that, it's just like, okay, but I just drew my opponent like 3 cards. Like I die. So yeah, like if they have more ways to flex that cool digital space, like which they should be able to do. Like it's, I'm all for it.
Yeah. The only problem is like you can't always like change cards, right? And I guess from a game developer point of view, it's a bit easier to just make a new card that does the intended effect you had than just change something old and deal with all the balance and all that with it, right? Like I'll just print a new card and think of it that way. It's easier, right?
And they've started doing that, right?
Yeah, they've started doing that.
Which I think is great.
And that's the reason that like something like a nerf or a ban would exist for a specific card. And you know, like eventually, not to bully Rally as a mechanic too much, but eventually, like I'm sure there'll come a point where, like, for example, Demacia, it's like the developers look at the Demacia cards and they're like, well, we want to print more cool stuff, but this one type of card just keeps limiting what we can do. Like it breaks everything. Maybe that's when things go to the wayside or things get changed fundamentally. Like they can do that. Like they can just change cards as they want. It's a really cool space where you can just do stuff like that.
Yep. And just like the champion reworks, we're seeing it applied there too, right?
Yeah. And like, okay, not to like speculate too early, but I've always been of the opinion that if Garen had a little bit more stats, he'd be one of the most toxic champs in this game. So I am patiently waiting to see what happens there.
Yeah, Jason.
Why is everyone looking at me?
Garen has overwhelm, I heard,
that's
right?
That's about time for us to wrap it up here. It's been about 50 minutes. Any closing words, anyone? Definitely not diverting from anything. Love you, right? Okay, real quick. If you guys were gun to your head, Luserbeam said Mono Shurima to go climb like 600 LP. CardGamer and Shadawx, what are your picks if you just had to like do a bunch of climbing over the next, I don't know, couple days? Rest of the week.
Whatever beats Shurima.
I just want to beat loser. So
there we go.
Loser.
Yeah, not even just mono Shurima, all of it. Ladder is all like Shurima and Yordle arms, and then like there's a bit of Scouts and Pantheon out there. But like I swear it's like Echo Zillion, Sundisk, Yordle arms, Scouts, Pantheon. Maybe you'll run into a Nox PZ player every once in a while. Maybe a Pirates player, but like
there's
just
some
be ready.
Aphelios, there's some Riven. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Well, Riven is Nox PNZ, and I don't think there's too much Aphelios on ladder. There's a bit, but I don't think there's too much.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the Aphelios that you see on ladder right now is just people clinging to their memories of the good old days.
They're just Majin Bales.
Was just too strong, yeah.
Shadawx, what were you?
Probably Mono Shurima. It's either Mono Shurima or probably Driven Rumble. Because I think Driven Rumble's a solid all-around aggro deck.
Yeah, I agree. I've never liked that deck. I always thought it was like, I don't know, like not quite good enough. But this season, for whatever reason, is I guess does it play Victor now? Is that why?
Nope.
No.
Same old.
Nope.
Nothing.
It's one of those decks that it's one of those decks
there's
that's
a
always
Victor
hated,
Rumble though.
There's like a Victor ambush. Like I don't think I've seen it with Rumble.
What you might be talking about, Jason, is Squallywag, Pascal, Sin of Kira, man of many names, was top of ladder with it was 2 Draven, 3 Rumble, 1 Victor. The whole idea
Okay.
is like Draven is very okay in the deck. He's like a solid turn 3 play. The axes are nice, but it's really like you're suiting up a big threat. Rumble is ideal, but Victor is just like the 4th Rumble.
Right. Yes, that was probably it.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
I'd
I guess
probably
just the
go with
archetype.
that.
We'll go with
Mhm.
that. Yeah, the archetype has just felt much better. I don't know. The meta just seemed to lined up better for it.
But yeah.
I guess I would take Riven Victor. It's really good in all the Shurima stuff. It's not so good until like Pantheon or Yordle and Arms, but it's fast and it smashes those decks pretty good. Because Mono Shurima, I feel like, I don't know, like you're gonna go on mirrors, and you're gonna go against a lot of people that are like coming against Mono Shurima. Seems like it'd be tough. And then weirdly, super weird. I'm gonna throw this out here. I grabbed this list off of the EU. It's Cithria, it's Kindred Galio, Cithria, Matron combo. It's like a total meme, a total joke. But it was like, I don't know, top 20 or something on the EU ladder. And I've been crushing with it today. Absolutely smashing people. I'm like, I don't know, probably only like 7-1 or something. But like the deck shouldn't be like winning a lot. I'm beating like real decks. And so I'm gonna throw that out there. I'm gonna go play a bunch of it after this podcast, and I feel like it might just randomly be good. I don't know. The deck did win seasonals. It happened. Okay. All right, that's it for us. Everyone say bye. We'll be back again next week with more stuff to talk about and probably more people. Peace.
Later.
See ya.
Take care.